Okay, picture this. You've got that dream, right? Studying abroad. You can almost see yourself there, new campus, new people, incredible experiences, just waiting. It's this amazing opportunity. But, before you actually get on that plane, there's this big step, the student visa application. And honestly, it can feel like trying to solve a puzzle in the dark sometimes. Lots of ways to stumble. So today, that's what we're diving into. We're looking at the common challenges, the things that trip people up, the misconceptions around student visas. We've gathered a lot of real-world insights, expert takes, all to help you make your application as solid as possible. The goal here is simple. Understand the process, avoid the common mistakes, and just feel more confident going through it.
And it's really important to understand the scale of this. I mean, visa rejections, they happen more often than you might think. It's not just a few people here and there. Take 2024, for example. Canada saw nearly 2.3 million student visa applications refused. That's a huge number. And a really significant chunk of those, almost 4 out of every 10 Indian applicants, faced rejection. So if you hit a snag, it's crucial to remember this isn't usually about you personally failing. It's about navigating a really complex, sometimes quite strict system.
Wow, 2.3 million. That really puts it in perspective. Okay, so let's break it down then. Why do these rejections happen? And more importantly, what can you actually do about it? Whether you're looking at the US F1, Canada's study permit, or the UK student visa.
Right. Well, let's start with the absolute bedrock principle, the thing that underpins so many of these visas, especially the F1 for the US and the UK student visa. They are officially non-immigrant visas. Now, that sounds technical, but what it really means is you have to convince the visa officer that your main goal is to study, and crucially, that you fully intend to go back home after you finish your course. It all comes down to proving what they call ties to your home country.
Ties to your home country. Okay, that sounds a bit formal. What does that actually look like in practice? What are they searching for?
It's about showing your life is fundamentally rooted back home. Think solid job prospects waiting for you, or maybe a job you're on leave from. Strong family connections, parents, siblings, maybe even your own spouse or kids staying behind. Owning property is a big one. Financial investments back home. Even, significant community roles or cultural obligations can count. It's the whole picture. Officers are trained to look for signs of immigrant intent, so they'll ask direct questions. Things like, what are your career plans back home after this? What about your family? Why this specific course, and how does it fit into your future there? And here's something interesting. Even if you've, say, put your name in for the U.S. Diversity Visa Lottery, the Green Card Lottery, you still have to clearly explain your plan is to return home after finishing your studies for the student visa. It's about telling a genuine, believable story you're going to learn, not to relocate permanently.
Okay, that makes sense. And that really ties into the next big point, doesn't it? Financial stability. I know this trips up so many people. It seems to be one of the top reasons for rejection. Either not showing enough money, or the proof just isn't documented properly.
Absolutely. They need solid proof you can cover tuition and living costs, usually for at least the first year, without needing to work illegally or rely on public funds.
Right.
And the rules get very specific. Take the UK. You need proof of funds for your first year's tuition, plus a set maintenance amount. Currently, it's around 1,136 hours a month for up to 9 months if you're outside London. You might be able to deduct some if you've paid for university housing, but you need to know the exact figure for your situation. And here's the critical part. Those funds, they need to have been in your account for at least 28 straight days before you apply.
28 days, okay.
And the bank statements you submit can't be more than 31 days old when you actually hit submit on your application.
Wow, precise.
It's vary. For Canada, it's typically 1 year's tuition plus at least CAD 10,000 for living costs, though that figure did recently go up, so always check the latest. The main point for any country is check the official government source for the current exact numbers and make sure your money is stable and properly documented way ahead of time.
So it's not just having the total amount. You mentioned how it got there.
Yeah.
What about things like big last-minute deposits? I hear that's a problem.
Oh, definitely. That's a huge red flag for visa officers.
Right.
It makes them think, okay, is this a temporary loan just to make the balance look good for the application? They want to see genuine, stable finances. So providing a proof of where the money came from is vital. That means things like sponsor letters, recent tax returns like ITRs and India salary slips, or just a bank history showing consistent savings over time. And for Canada, if you're using the student direct stream, the SDS pathway, getting a guaranteed investment certificate, a GIC, from a specific Canadian bank is actually mandatory for approving living expenses. It's quite interesting how detailed and, well, transparent these financial checks are. They're really digging into your financial story.
Given that level of scrutiny, what are some practical tips? What should people focus on when gathering their financial documents?
Okay, first, always use original documents or certified copies if allowed, things that are verifiable. Second, try to keep the money trail simple. If possible, consolidate funds into one or two main accounts rather than having small amounts scattered everywhere. Makes it easier to follow. Third, be really careful about who the money is coming from. Generally, money from relatives beyond your parents or legal guardians or from friends. That's usually not accepted. Same goes for most company bank statements, unless it's an official scholarship sponsor. And things like salary accounts might show income, but they might not count towards the required lump sum readily available. Credit cards, overdrafts, shares, bonds, usually not considered liquid assets for this purpose. And definitely avoid banks that are maybe less regulated or where it's hard for the visa office to verify things. You want everything to be clear, above board, undeniable.
All right, clarity is key. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. Let's talk about the power of your personal story, specifically in this statement of purpose, or SOP, and how you explain any gaps in your timeline. I understand a weak or generic SOP is a big reason for refusal, especially thinking about Canada.
Yes, absolutely critical. Your SOP needs to clearly lay out your academic ambitions, your future career plans back home, and exactly why this specific course in this specific country is essential for that plan.
So what makes an SOP weak? What are the common pitfalls there?
Well, using cliches or generic buzzwords is a big one. Saying things like, I've always dreamed of studying in X country, without backing it up. Another mistake is not clearly connecting your past studies or work experience to the course you want to do now. Why this subject? Why now? And crucially, not having a clear, believable plan for what you'll do after graduation, specifically back in your home country. Remember that non-immigrant intent. The SOP is where you really make that case. It's showing you're a genuine student with a thought-out plan, not just someone looking for a way into the country.
That makes sense. And what about those gaps? People take time off for all sorts of reasons, travel, family stuff, maybe prepping for tests. Does that automatically look bad?
Not necessarily bad, no, but they absolutely must be explained, honestly and clearly. An unexplained gap makes visa officers wonder what you were really doing. Were you working undocumented? Were you trying to immigrate somewhere else? It just raises questions. So the key is to be upfront. If you took 6 months to study for the IELTS, agree, say that. Mention the dates, the tests taken. If you did freelance work, maybe provide a summary or even a reference letter if possible. If you were caring for a family member, explain that briefly. Frame it positively. Show you were doing something productive or necessary during that time. It wasn't just an empty period. Honesty is crucial here.
Okay, honesty and explanation. Got it. Now, let's talk about something that seems basic, but sounds like it causes a lot of problems. Just getting the documents right. Accuracy, completeness.
Oh, you wouldn't believe how often simple mistakes derail an application. Things like an expired passport seems obvious, but it happens. Missing signatures on forms, submitting files in the wrong format online, forgetting to get official translations for documents not in English or French for Canada, or English for the UK.
And consistency too, right? Like names matching exactly across everything.
Exactly. Even a small difference in how your name is spelled on your passport versus your SOP or bank statement can raise a red flag. It suggests carelessness, or worse, maybe trying to hide something. You have to meticulously double-check everything. And for the UK, it's particularly strict. Even minor things you might forget about, like an old driving offense, if not declared. That can be seen as deception and lead to a really harsh 10-year ban on reapplying.
10 years. Wow.
It's serious stuff. They expect total accuracy.
And it's not just having the docs, but how you present them. I heard the UKVI, for instance, might just ignore stuff if it's messy or not in the order they asked for.
That's absolutely right. They often specify the exact order and format for documents. If your submission is disorganized, unclear, poorly scanned, they might not even consider those documents. You have to follow their instructions to the letter. And this brings us to a really critical warning. Never, ever use fake documents. Fake bank statements, fake job letters, altered test scores, made-up internship certificates. It's fraud. It's a crime. Get caught, and you're looking at immediate refusal, blacklisting, and long bans, 5 years for Canada, potentially longer elsewhere, maybe even permanent. You have to ask yourself, why risk your entire future trying to cheat the system? Honesty and careful preparation are the only ways to go.
Absolutely. Okay, final area. Choosing your school and maybe getting some help. Does the reputation of the college actually matter to the visa officer?
It definitely can. Applying to a lesser-known institution, maybe one with a poor track record or questions about its academic rigor, or worse, one suspected of being used just for visa purposes that can lower your chances. For Canada, this is formalized. You must apply to a designated learning institution, a DLI. These are schools approved by the province or territory to host international students. And now IRCC, the Canadian Immigration Authority, actually verifies your letter of acceptance directly with the DLI before issuing a permit.
Ah, so they check it.
They do.
Yeah.
It's to combat fraud, fake acceptance letters, or people enrolling in programs they have no intention of actually completing just to get into Canada. They want to see genuine students going to legitimate institutions.
Makes sense. So with all this complexity, the finances, the SOP, the documents, choosing the right DLI, what about getting help? Using an agent or consultant?
It's a personal choice. You absolutely can do it yourself if you're organized, detail-oriented, and comfortable navigating the official websites and forms. Plenty of people do. But getting good advice from a reputable consultant can be really helpful, especially if English isn't your first language, or your situation has some tricky aspects, or you just feel overwhelmed. They know the process inside out. However, and this is a huge however, you cannot just blindly trust an agent and let them handle everything without your oversight.
Why is that?
Because you are ultimately responsible for every single piece of information submitted in your name. If the agent makes a mistake, or worse, submit something fraudulent pretending it's real, you face the consequences, including those long bans.
Oof.
So, if you use an agent, you must review every form, every document yourself before it's submitted. Understand what's being said in your SOP. Make sure the financial documents are accurate and legitimate. Stay involved.
Okay, crucial advice. So let's say you do everything right, or you thought you did, but you still get a visa refusal. Is that it? Game over.
No, definitely not the end of the road in most cases. Don't panic. For Canada, there's usually no mandatory waiting period before you can reapply. For the UK, there might be options like administrative review or reapplying fairly soon, depending on why you were refused. The absolute most important thing is to find out why. What was the specific reason for the refusal?
How do you do that?
For Canada, you can formally request your GCMS notes, Global Case Management System notes. These are the internal notes the visa officer made on your file, explaining their reasoning.
Oh, okay. That sounds useful.
Incredibly useful. It tells you exactly what concerns they had. Maybe they weren't convinced about your finances or your intent to return, or they questioned your choice of program. Getting those notes is vital for preparing a stronger reapplication where you directly address those specific points.
And for the UK?
The refusal letter itself usually contains detailed reasons. Read it very carefully. Sometimes an administrative review is possible if you think they made an error based on the submitted documents. But the main idea is a refusal isn't just a rejection, it's feedback. Use that feedback to improve and try again.
Okay, that's actually quite encouraging. So pulling all this together, what's the big takeaway? It feels like this journey, while exciting, really demands, well, a lot of careful work.
It does. It's about being meticulous, being honest, and understanding what the visa officer needs to see. You're essentially building a case for yourself.
A case that needs to be coherent, truthful, and really well supported by evidence.
Exactly. So just to quickly recap what we've touched on. Demonstrating that strong intent to return home is fundamental. Having clear, verifiable, and sufficient financial proof is non-negotiable. Crafting a compelling personal statement of purpose that explains your goals and connects the dots is crucial. Ensuring every single document is accurate, complete, and honestly presented is paramount. Choosing a reputable institution like a DLI in Canada matters. And finally, if you do face a refusal, understanding the exact reasons, perhaps through GCMS notes, is key to successfully reapplying.
It really sounds like your application is your story, your academic story, your financial story, your future story. And every detail helps paint that picture clearly. Make it strong, make it clear, and make it undeniably, authentically you. All the best with your applications. And we will meet again with another important matter again.